Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Connor. Good to see you yesterday in the Armed Services Committee. Today, you don't have all those other military guys around you. You're on your own, but you're doing just fine. And Sherry and Gabriella, welcome and congratulations. I enjoyed very much our conversation on the phone. It was hard not to nerd out a little bit on a couple of these things. Sometimes I think there are only a couple of us that know what we're talking about, and then I find out, no, there's just one, and it's not me. But I enjoyed it. I want to start by asking a fundamental policy question and really sort of drilling down on some of the things that you visited with Senator Capito or Senator Moore Capito on, and that is, of course, states' rights. You and I talked about it, and it's an area I think for a lot of us that we in many cases, particularly out in the middle of the country, maybe feel a little bit isolated from things, and sometimes not just forgotten, but maybe getting too much attention from time to time. And I know it's an issue that you dealt with, you grappled with, obviously, when you were the Commissioner for Reclamation. It was important. In there are two of the most fundamental statutes that govern the Corps: the Flood Control Act of 1944, and then, of course, the Water Supply Act of 1958, which expressly reinforce states' rights and reinforce the historic policy of deferring to state water rights. The Flood Control Act's declaration of policy specifically states, I'm going to quote here, "It is hereby declared to be the policy of the Congress to recognize the interests and rights of the states in determining the development of the watersheds within their borders, and likewise their interests and rights in water utilization and control," unquote. Similarly, the Water Supply Act reinforces, quote, "It is declared to be the policy of the Congress to recognize the primary responsibilities of the states and local interests in developing water supplies for domestic, municipal, industrial, and other purposes," unquote. So at the end of the Obama administration, you and I talked about this, the Corps proposed what became known as the Water Supply Rule, which both Republican and Democratic Western states adamantly opposed. I mean unanimously opposed. And it's not very often that Oregon and North Dakota are on the exact same page, or where the attorneys general of those two states and the governors of those two states will sign on paper their opposition to something. And so when it comes, though, to messing with states' water rights, we in the West get pretty serious and pretty united. So thankfully, the rule was formally withdrawn under the Trump administration after this bipartisan blowback. And with that in mind, I want to ask, do you believe that the Corps was right to withdraw the rule? And if so, can you commit that it will not be proposed again, at least under your leadership?
Well, Senator, thank you. And I greatly enjoyed our conversation. And at the risk of being even wonkier, I'll say the acts you just referenced are the same as Section 8 of the Reclamation Act. And so I'm used to working under that regime. I am not familiar with the specifics of the regulation that was proposed. I am very sensitive, though, to the concerns that you just raised. And given the opposition, there can't be progress moving forward with something that's been rejected previously. And so you have my commitment to look into that issue, make sure that we work on something productive together. I think coming up with something, as I understand in our conversation, that is close to getting support necessary so that water resources can be allocated from those Corps facilities is incredibly important. We see it in the West-wide drought. It's no longer a regional drought, it's a West-wide drought. And we need to, getting back to my overall objective, is to ensuring that these facilities have the maximum multiple beneficial purposes. I'm happy to work with you on your approach.
Thank you. And I appreciated your you're elaborating a little bit on cooperative federalism with Senator Moore Capito. It was refreshing to hear, so I won't dig into that. But I'm going to go quickly to the Dakota Access Pipeline, which, as you know, originates in North Dakota, runs 358 miles through North Dakota. 0.21 miles of the 358 miles are being contested. As you know, you, of course, were the Deputy Secretary at the time of the protests and that was built. I won't relitigate the whole thing. You know it very well. A lot of people know it very well. But at the issue at hand now, of course, while the pipeline continues to function safely, move about a little over 500,000 barrels of oil per day, 60% of the oil from the Mandan-Hadassah-Arikawa Nation flows on that pipeline. As you know, a judge here in D.C. ordered the EA to be replaced with an EIS. And that's, of course, where the challenges come for whether shut the pipeline down while the EIS is done. It's not going to be shut down, as you know. It's legally sustainable now. My question, though, is if you're confirmed with this EIS continuing, and it's expected to be done in March of next year, and that will determine a couple of things. One, whether the pipeline was sited properly, mostly sited by the state of North Dakota, other than this 0.21 miles under the Missouri River. But do I have your commitment that you'll do everything you can to keep politics out of the EIS process? Because I firmly believe the EIS will confirm the EA, which was done by the Obama administration. So,
Senator Cramer, yes, we need to move forward consistent with the law and the very clear direction that the court has given to move forward with an EIS, to do a thorough analysis addressing the deficiencies that the court found. Those are legal questions and they're technical questions that need to be followed up. That the district office is moving forward on a very firm schedule for completing that, I think, in the spring of next year. I want to oversee that and understand it, given the visibility of the issue and the importance of tribal consultation in moving forward. And so that's going to be the process. It's not going to be a political one.
DA, thank you. And by the way, you might have noticed just this week or late last week, the first consultation with the tribe took place for the EIS. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Thank you.